Okay. 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 Thank you all for attending. My name is Rob Kidd. I'm the Vermont Sierra Club Conservation Program Manager. And we basically have been working on the noise pollution thanks to one of our members, Karen Atkins. We appreciate that. And basically, we're, I think, have had some pretty good success this year getting something built through the Senate with Senator Andy Perchlik, who was involved with that committee. But we're also here with an expert to talk about the noise cameras. So, but I'm going to actually pass it off to Laura to say a couple of remarks first before we continue on that.
You want me to do this whole?
Yeah.
Okay. So my name's Laura Eubanks, and I'm an attorney, and I volunteer with the Sierra Club. And I was very interested in getting some motor vehicle noise legislation through the legislature in Vermont. So I've been helping to work on that. One of the things that came up as we made our journey through this getting the bill in was a report that the state put out, was a Department of Motor Vehicles and the Agency of Transportation. And this report was required under legislation passed in 2023 because there had been a previous bill put in that did not make it through, but a report was required in lieu of passing the bill. The report was required to address whether there should be a motor vehicle noise standard in Vermont statute or in the rules for inspection, which is referred to as Vermont Periodic Inspection Manual, or VPIM. So you'll see that on the screen quite a bit. It was also required to address various methods that might be used to enforce the noise standard and what the costs of enforcing a standard might be. So I'm going to just quickly go over what the current law on motor vehicle noise is in Vermont and at the federal level. So back to the Vermont Periodic Inspection Manual. Previously, the rules in that manual required that a vehicle fail inspection if, for cars and light trucks, any modifications that would cause the exhaust system to allow excessive noise would be a fail. And for motorcycles, any modifications that would cause a noise level higher than would be generated by the exhaust system as originally installed by the manufacturer would also be a fail. But in 2018, new law was put into place in Vermont. I think basically because there were complaints about how expensive it was to fix a car that failed inspection. If it was an unimportant thing like windshield wipers, I think was what an example was given to me. So the new inspection it will only be a fail if the items are related to safety. And the rules that once had a fail for mufflers now is an advised in most cases, and advises they're just telling the owner of the vehicle that they may be in violation of other laws. And this has caused many exhausts and mufflers less likely to fail, even if modified to be louder. So at the federal level, there is law on sound limits for motor vehicles. For medium to heavy trucks, the sound limit is 80 decibels for vehicles produced in 1988 and after. And for motorcycles, there's a sound limit of 80 dBAs for those produced, sorry, did I say dBAs? It's decibels at A-weighted, which is more technical than I want to get into. Right, I don't want to get into that right now. But for motorcycles, the sound limit is 80 decibels for those produced in 1986 and after. And motorcycles are required to have an easily viewable stamp stating that it meets the APA limits of 80 decibels. And next slide. So in the report, options were given for considerations for enforcement. The first option was to change the inspection manual to reject modified or excessively noisy exhausts. The report stated that this was considered the simplest and least costly noise control measure, but it was also the least effective. It was subjective, which meant there wasn't a clear standard, and that could be easily challenged, or at least challenged legally. And vehicle owners can remove the aftermarket mufflers before the inspection and then reinstall them after they pass the inspection. The second option is noise testing as part of the inspection process using sound meters. This does have an objective standard for vehicle noise levels, but the report stated that it was expensive due to the number of sound meters required. The third option is noise testing in statute and implemented by law enforcement personnel using noise meters. This would require less equipment or fewer sound meters than the inspection option, because in the inspection process, you would need a sound meter at every inspection station, and I think there's hundreds of them around the state. But this was thought to be more dependent on increasing law enforcement personnel and their responsibilities. Also, this was considered to be subjective in deciding which field vehicles to test. The fourth option is noise testing in statute, but implemented by automatic drive-by acoustic cameras. This was thought to provide a scalable, objective vehicle noise testing solution because it had a clear decibel sound limit that could be measured, and it would not add an additional burden to law enforcement or inspection stations. I did get the feeling that the report was a bit skeptical in general that there should be sound limits on motor vehicles, but as we all know, we feel like there really is a need for sound limits on motor vehicles. So they did actually support, it seemed, the automated drive-by acoustic cameras. Go on now. So to go more deeply into the automated drive-by acoustic cameras, the benefits, it provides an objective noise testing. It's used with clear and objective decibel sound limits and lessens the likelihood of legal challenge. It avoids the need for additional law enforcement personnel, and roadside traffic stops by law enforcement would not be necessary. Remote license plate readers and sound meters would remotely catch the violators. It lessens the concerns over police bias. The sound standards are objective. The cameras capture license plates only, and there are no traffic stops. And we found that the noise cameras, out of all the procedures for enforcing, was the most positively received by the groups that we talked to, including law enforcement. The bill, S66 is how we got here. This is where we are now in trying to come up with an enforcement measure. So currently, it requires a change to the state inspection manual that would prohibit modifications to vehicle exhaust that result in excessive noise. It requires motorcycles to be equipped with a stamp as required by EPA, which states that it meets the 80 decibel standard. It requires mufflers to prevent excessive noise from engine compression brakes on trucks. And it requires the DMV to submit a report to the legislature on proposals for maximum sound limits for motor vehicles and methods to enforce those sound limits. The original draft of S66, which was amended by the Senate, removed the sound limits in the bill and required that there be a report instead. And the original draft also authorized the use of sound meters and noise cameras. Okay. So at this point, we think that the use of automated noise cameras would be a very effective and acceptable option for enforcement of excessive motor vehicle noise laws. And the report stated that we would need to allow for unattended and remote enforcement in statute to get this through. The changes are being investigated by other parties as part of research into the practicality of speed cameras, apparently at the state level. And the report referred to a pilot program that could be implemented to investigate the feasibility of the system by using fewer stations in the pilot program. So my conclusion, I don't know if everyone else agrees with me at this point, but it seems to me that a combination of state inspection rules and the use of noise cameras could be the most effective at addressing the problem of excessive motor vehicle noise. And The state inspection rules would prohibit modified exhaust mufflers that could still catch violators. It could act as a deterrent and send a message that these types of systems are unlawful. In addition, if you use the noise cameras, you could catch the owners that changed out their exhaust systems to pass inspection and then change the back to louder systems after inspection. So that's where we're at.
And if I could add something. I guess I have to keep my audio muted. The other thing is, since the commercial trucks in Vermont are all self-inspected, they wouldn't get that initial, advise or fail at the inspection level. So it would be the only way that you could control the commercial truck noise.
Mm-hmm. Yep, good point.
I guess I'll go ahead and keep talking. On to our special guest, Rueben Peckham, who is here from the UK with Intelligent Instruments. I met him when I was working on a film about noise pollution. And I had been, as part of the conclusion on our film, we were looking at technological solutions to dealing with excessive noise. And these noise cameras, because I was working on this about 3 years ago, the noise cameras were starting to become more viable. So I did contact them, and they have a little cameo in my film. But also, since then, in the last few years, I've talked to Rueben about what's going on and how widely these noise cameras are being adopted. And he's been keeping me abreast of how they're being used in different communities in the US and around the world. So he's here tonight mostly because there is a international conference of noise control engineers taking place in little old Stowe, Vermont next week, and he came in a few days early so that he could teach us a little bit about noise cameras. So without further ado, Rueben.
Thank you. Thanks. Can everyone hear me? So, and obviously I know I talk funny, so if you can't understand me, please do interrupt me, and I'll try and speak more slowly. Thank you. Hopefully this is going to work. Okay, so just a little bit about me. This isn't a sales pitch. I'm an engineer, and the two don't really mix. So I'm an acoustic engineer in terms of my background, and I run two different companies. So one is 24 Acoustics, obviously both in the UK. 24 Acoustics is a consultancy in noise and vibration, and we also run Intelligent Instruments, which makes a whole range of different noise and vibration monitors, including our sound noise camera, which is kind of what we're here to talk about today. So I'm a graduate and postgraduate from ISVR, which some of you may know of, Institute of Sound and Vibration Research at Southampton University, which is about a 5-minute walk from our office. So went there in the 90s and never really left. And I've been doing this job for 30 years. Have a little bit of experience, I guess. So what I was going to talk to you about tonight is obviously the title of the talk is Exciting Innovations in Vehicle Noise Enforcement. I'll try and make it exciting if I can. So just really, why we might need vehicle noise enforcement. So the health effects of exposure to excess noise. And we talk about traffic noise. Obviously, that's what we're here doing. Is traffic noise inevitable, or does some of it relate to the behaviour of the driver? How do we manage the excess noise from road vehicles? And then we'll talk about our sampling noise cameras and kind of roughly how they work and where they are in the world, what we're doing. Show you some examples, and then also talk about some of the legal challenges we've had. So we've got 12 systems that operate in New York City, and they've had quite a few legal challenges. So I'll talk about that, and also just on privacy. Everyone's always concerned with privacy as well, so I'll go through that. Okay. So noise and health. You guys may well be aware of all of this stuff already. I know some of you will be, but obviously it's kind of really well documented these days. There's been a lot of scientific studies looking at the relationship between noise exposure, excess noise exposure, and health. And the obvious thing, of course, if I asked you, is that if you get exposed to too much noise, then you might become hearing impaired. But it's more subtle than that. And excess, prolonged routine exposure to excess noise, even at low level, can, sleep disturbance, stress, impact on mental health. cognitive impairment, concentration, memory, learning ability, but also physiological illness. So, you know, blood pressure, fatigue, headaches, digestive problems, even cardiovascular disease, basically. So, and that's very well documented now. There's a lot of studies showing that, which I'm sure some of you know of. The World Health Organization has this slightly scary statistic. They say that more than 1 million healthy years of life are lost every year from traffic-related noise exposure in Western Europe. That doesn't mean 1 million people have died or die per year from excess noise exposure. What it means is that if you add up all of the hours or days that each person has has ill health as a result of noise exposure, then it comes to 1 million years. So the next question, kind of rhetorical question is, you know, we're all exposed to traffic noise. You know, we all have cars. We all live in areas, even if you live in, you know, out in the countryside, you're still never a long way away from a road. So traffic noise, you know, is always there, but is it inevitable? And hopefully we'll get the audio from this. Do we have audio?
Does he have to share that?
I have shared the audio.
You have to share audio
I have shared it.
on your computer. Turn the volume.
Just, I don't know if everyone I can mute my microphone.
Here.
Actually, my microphone is muted.
I think we need your microphone to work so that we can hear the video. So we need to pause his microphone.
Yeah. One
Which-
second. Where's the
So you're sharing-
It's better to now mute yourself.
Okay, cool. All right. So the point I'm making here is, you know, as I said, we're all exposed to traffic noise. It's inevitable. You know, we can't get away from it until we're all electric. You know, that's gonna, you know, it's a fact of life. But driver behaviour, you know, kind of causes issues over and above the normal. And so I think that was 5 or 6 videos there of probably 250,000 that we have now of showing, you know, the kind of way that people, most of them are in the UK, but the kind of way that people drive. So, you know, excess revving, modified mufflers, Jake brake, the orange truck in New York, that was Jake brake. We'll talk more about those later. Honking horns, music, etc. So one of the criticisms we often have from a driver that's been caught by one of our systems is, well, I haven't modified my vehicle. You know, this is my whatever it is, Mustang. I bought it from Ford. I haven't done anything to it, and I'm just driving it. And actually, the point, and so they, you know, and I'll talk about the legal appeals that we've had in New York City later. But one of that's very often a defence, but it's not valid, because if you drive a performance car or a noisy car, you have the choice. When you're stopped at the lights and you're waiting for the red light to go green, you have the choice when you pull away to put your foot flat on the floor and disturb everyone that's living there or residing there or studying there, whatever it is, or you have the choice to drive away slowly and calmly and not create a huge racket. So excess noise from road vehicles is not down to the car, it's down to the driver, and it's another form of antisocial behaviour, just like shouting on the streets might be. So that's a really important point that I always like to emphasise. So in terms of how we manage excess noise from vehicles at the moment, you know, we've got guys like this out on the street. using handheld noise monitors. There's obviously a place for this, but it needs, it's costly, it needs a lot of resource, it needs specialist training and knowledge, very labor intensive. The alternative is something like this. This is one of our systems in New York City. So this is SoundView, and it's largely automated. It's as automated as you want it to be, but it detects excess noise. So it detects based on noise level, based on the character of the sound. So it detects on engine or muffler noise. It detects on horns. It detects on music and Jake brakes. And actually, it also detects on sirens, but that's to eliminate them so we don't get false positives. When it detects that sound, that character sound, particular level, it records a video clip, it records the audio, it records the noise level, pushes it all up into the cloud, and the user can then, it might be somebody, city official, it might be police, varies according to where we are. They can look at that data and they can take a view as to whether that's an offence and issue a citation. And in fact, we're going beyond that now, actually. So we're starting to work, particularly here in the US, we're starting to work with companies like Vermont Mobility. I don't know if you know of them, but they're a very big red light and speed camera supplier in the US, and they have what's called, and we've got a couple of other partners as well, but they have what they call back office functions. So they actually our technology goes as far as giving the evidence. So we identify the vehicle, the noise level, etc. But then they go to the next step and they identify the owner of the vehicle. So they look up the owner of the vehicle, they issue the fine, they collect the revenue, all that kind of stuff. So it takes all of the pressure, all of that role away from the operator and the user. Very briefly then, in terms of how it started. I don't know if any of you guys have been to London, and particularly to Kensington and Chelsea in London. It's a very wealthy part of London. And this is a genuine photo of the pink Lamborghini parked outside Harrods. This isn't photoshopped. So my view is, if you buy a Lamborghini and then choose to paint it pink, you're not the kind of person that's going to want to be unseen or unheard. And this is the issue they have. So they have a lot of high performance cars. The issues we get around the world, are very different, according to the areas. So some areas like this, very, Lamborghinis, Porsches, Ferraris, driven around in the middle of the night, by people that want to show off and make a lot of noise. Modified mufflers, kind of the other end of the spectrum, if you like, and then not saying bikes, and then Jake brakes, engine brakes, etc. So varies according to territory, but this is where we started. So we already had a relationship with the council officers there, and they came to us and said, "Is there a technical solution that we could adopt or build to look at this?" So we already had noise monitors that we made, but we reworked them, we put cameras on them, we reprogrammed them, and that was how the first noise cameras came about. We tested 2 of those in London in 2020 for 3 months. So a 3-month pilot, less than that. So 5 years later, so they were so pleased with it, they bought them, and they've carried on. In fact, they operate 12 of them now, so we have 12 operating in London. And on the back of it, we had lots and lots of media attention, and which actually kind of it came across the Atlantic, and New York City picked up on it. And we did a pilot with them, 1 system for a year, starting summer 2021. That grew, became permanent, and they now operate 12 systems there, and they have pretty hefty fines in New York. I don't know if you know, $850. So $850 for the first occurrence, $1,700 for the second, $2,500 for the third, which probably explains why they nearly have a full-time lawyer, because they do get a lot of legal challenges.
Do you know if that's the same for the red light?
So again, same level of fine.
The same fine for the red light.
I don't know actually. I don't know. So this is, I'll just play this quickly. This is I said about the media attention. This kind of just gives you some background. So this is from a couple of years ago. There's a TV show in the UK called The One Show, which is on at 7 p.m. every night, and they feature the noise cameras. What do I need to do? Mute. Yeah.
You might be familiar with this sound. It's not only annoying, it can also impact your health.
Yeah, but brand new technology is now putting the brakes on noisy cars, as Lindsay Russell found out.
If you live in a bustling town or city, your ears might be regularly exposed to loud noise.
But there's one sound that's really grinding the gears of people. UK, noisy cars and motorbikes. And as someone who lives on a really busy road, I know a thing or two about the stress and anxiety that can cause.
The police can find drivers who cause a nuisance with too much noise, but it's not easy to gather evidence. So the big question is, how do you stop it?
Well, you've seen speed cameras. This
You
is
should
the
try
new kid
the
on the block, a
Bravecto
noise
topical.
camera.
The first 5 cameras to be installed in the UK are in London's Kensington and Chelsea, where they've had problems for years with owners of high-performance cars showing off their noisy engines.
We've seen people bringing cars into the area that have very loud exhausts, revving the vehicle, driving in a very noisy manner.
So how do these actually work?
So you've got a microphone and a couple of cameras. When the microphone detects a breach, it records the video, and then an officer will review it to make sure that there is an offence that they can issue a ticket for. We've had over 116 decibels recorded by one of these cameras. That's the equivalent of a chainsaw or a helicopter being right next to your ear, well above what they're legally allowed to make. Of our sort of 400 tickets that have been issued, we've only had very few that are repeat offenders. So clearly the message has sort of got through that if you're going to make this noise, this isn't the place to do it.
With the success in London, the government is pledging to invest £300,000 towards more of these cameras for England and Wales's noisiest streets. Tim Morsom reckons this street near where he lives in Leeds should be one of them.
You can see the tyre marks in the road. You know, this is where people are coming down here late at night doing donuts in the road, or sometimes it's used as a racing strip or a drag strip.
As well as drag racing, Tim says it's the modified exhausts that really raise the decibel levels.
They hugely increase the volume of the cars. It's, you know, a really powerful growl, really, really loud, enough sometimes to make your windows shake. This noise can happen 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. It really affects people's lives.
Frequently disrupted sleep can have a serious impact on our health.
Your brain has a awakened reaction to loud noises, which means when this happens, it increases the adrenaline and the cortisol hormones in your body, and it can cause a spike to your blood pressure and your heart rate.
So you're not actually resting or sleeping as well?
No, you're not. And that can affect your mental and your physical health. You're more likely to have anxiety, depression, high blood pressure,
Some
and even
Paracatrio
heart
on my
disease.
boys.
For Tim in Leeds, a camera could make all the difference.
It's really important for us to get this sorted. We're tired of having our sleep disrupted. This is a quiet, nice area. It should stay that way, and so we need to do something about it.
It's going to be interesting to see if that kind of technology makes a difference, I think.
And appears to be an individually based sensitivity. You were never able to visit. Oh.
Microphone. Okay, my microphone is on. Is that better? Okay. Do I need to repeat anything? But if people couldn't hear me.
There was no audio for the last few minutes, they said.
Oh,
We might have to backtrack a little bit.
okay. 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 So, all right. Let's just carry on with this then. So basically, this is the system. I'll talk you through it. So we have the main microphone here. So this is what detects the noise level and the character of the sound. The other thing I didn't say, so I'm not repeating myself entirely, is that this is certified to an international accuracy standard. So it's class 1 to IEC 61672, which I think is really important because when this is challenged in court, we have to be able to demonstrate that the data has been obtained, and from a calibrated system, and it's robust and it's accurate, etc. And it requires annual calibration because of that. So this is the expensive microphone, if you like. This is what's doing most of the heavy lifting. But then we have a secondary microphone array, 4 little microphones here, which is spaced apart, and this detects the dominant vehicle. So the sound hits each of these microphones with a tiny delay. We measure that delay, and that triangulates and determines the dominant vehicle, places a red dot on the dominant vehicle. So we can tell if we've got two vehicles side by side, we can tell which is the one that's causing the sound and creating the offence. And it also tells the LPR cameras down here where to focus, basically, so they know which license plate to read. So in terms of cameras, we have the LPR cameras here, and we also have a fisheye, so wide angle lens in the middle here. So when it triggers, it records 14 seconds, noise level, audio, video, pushes it all up into the cloud, and the user can basically log into a web interface, look at the data, look at the video, listen to it, see the noise level, and determine whether it's an offence and what to do, whether it's to issue a warning or whether it's just if it's a pilot study just to collect the data, or as in London and New York City and a couple of other places that are about to come online, issue a fine, basically. So what I have now is a selection of video screenshots of our web system, if you like. So this basically shows the evidence that the user will see when they log in. I think I've got 8 of them. I won't play all of them, but this is a really good one because it shows 2 vehicles side by side, and it makes it really clear which is the one that's causing the offence. So we do have audio. I'm kind of a bit lost with the audio now. We do have audio on here.
You're on your
Yeah,
computer controlling.
so we're good. We just press play and it's going to go. Yeah, okay, fingers crossed. All right. So what I just explained and what you're going to see. So the 4 cameras at the top here. These are the LPR. Actually, they're dual sensor cameras. So the LPR is the darker images down here. But what you'll see is the cars approaching. And then passing the cameras here, and then this is probably image to watch. This is the fisheye lens in the middle, and you'll see the red dot tracking the vehicle on here. And then the page will scroll down. You see a graph with noise level and all of the data about the vehicle as well. So that's really clear there. So we have the red dot on the black car, which is a Dodge Charger, I believe. We don't have them in the UK. It's taken me a while to learn all these cars that we don't have. So that's a Dodge Charger. That is obviously, I don't know what that is, but it's it's really clear that we've got the red dot there tracking the black car. And they are literally side by side at that point, and we wouldn't know which one was causing the trouble without this technology. And then we have license plate, which is automatically read and falls out at the bottom here. So just so you know, the noise level for this is 110. That's at 50 feet. Something to be aware of is people always quote noise levels. They don't necessarily quote the distance. Oh. It's pretty meaningless without the distance. So that's something to be aware of. Right, so that's
meaningless without the distance?
Yeah. Yeah.
What, can you explain that?
Yeah, because if I'm sat here and I'm talking to you, the noise level that you hear from my voice might be 65 over this distance. But if I'm further away, it's going to be lower. So you can't, on its own, the noise level is meaningless. You have to say, because the noise level will vary according to how far away you are from the source.
So then if it's 110, that means it's higher at the source.
Depending on the depending on the distance. Yeah. Right. Okay. So I'm going to just see what. So we've got. Let's see what else we've got. So this is that was in Miami Beach. I think that was probably obvious. This is in the UK. I think this is a motorbike. Yeah, this is it. So much lower level there, 80, 89. And in fairness to him, that's a really old bike, but you do hear him revving it as he drives past. He's going brum, brum as he goes past. So that's an old Norton bike. This is a bike in New York City.
Screen, do you see that?
Oh, what's that? Sorry. No, I didn't see it. So,
110 at the mic or at 50?
It's at the mic. Yeah, it's at the mic, but obviously the source is varying according to where the vehicle is. The ordinance in New York City is they enforce at 85 at 50 feet. So they have invisible markers in the road so that they do know roughly the distance. But actually, although they ticket at 85, their ordinance is 76. So they have a fairly wide kind of margin for error. But we are about to implement a change which is going to actually it's going to measure the distance to the vehicle as well. So as well as getting noise level, we will have the distance so that if your ordinance is, I don't know, 90 at 60 feet or something, but we measure the vehicle at 40 feet, we can then back calculate that so we can know what the corresponding level would be at the distance that the ordinance applies. So that's on its way.
There was another question that came up.
Yeah.
Is it pulling the make and model from the screen, or is it?
No, that is so it only pulls the license plate. For UK vehicles, we have a database that then looks at the make and model. In the US, we don't have access to those kind of, I think it's NLIT's database that logs all the vehicle data. We don't have that. So the user can manually update it if required, or the third party I mentioned, the third party companies that process the fines and do all that kind of stuff, they would do that as well. Okay.
Or the law enforcement.
Or law enforcement, whoever it is. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So let's just see what else we've got. I like this one. So I'll play this. Sadly, it's cost him $850.
What was that?
93. Yeah. And I know you guys are concerned about engine braking. Are you concerned with horns? Is that a big issue here? No, let's say, all right, we'll pass on the horns then. So we just recently completed a pilot in quite a small town in Iowa called Abaca. And it was really successful. And they have a particular issue with engine brakes, with Jake brakes. And they literally went straight from pilot straight into purchase, and it's implemented. And so this is I think I've got a couple of these. So have a listen to this. The real frog.
You're familiar with it.
Yeah. Don't have nightmares.
Feels like she's at home.
Yeah. So we have the plate. So the level there is 104. But I mean, I think with an engine brake, it's not just the level; it's the character of the sound, isn't it? Because it has that low frequency. Kind of, you feel it in your sort of chest cavity almost, don't you?
Do you have the ability to use an unweighted level so that you could capture some of the low frequency sound?
We do. Yeah. I mean, it's not shown here, but we capture everything. Yeah, so we can, I mean, the algorithms that we use to identify the source of the type of sound, are not just based on frequency, but the character of the sound and the timing of the sound as well. So yeah, we have all of that data. Yeah.
Like, this isn't a huge issue in Vermont, but growing up in my hometown, there would be people who'd have like the heaviest basses that it would like, you would feel it in your eardrums when
So-
you were even though it wasn't that loud.
So what for music?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So again, that's just low frequency. So your chest cavity is 16 hertz. So which is very low frequency. I mean, threshold of hearing is actually about 20. So you don't really hear anything below 20 hertz, but you feel it. So your chest, your chest cavity resonance is about 16 hertz. And I remember going to nightclubs when I was a kid, and you'd be there, and they have a huge speaker. You need a big speaker. If you think of an organ in a church, the bass notes are, it's all down to wavelength. The bass notes are the really big pipes. So you need a big speaker to get those kind of low frequencies. But I remember being in nightclubs as a teenager, and you feel it in your chest, and it's not very nice, really. Way too old for that stuff now. But yeah, it can be, yeah. And I think that there's here we go, just to finish you off, one further J break. We're really pleased with this. We're getting really involved at this site. This is the first real kind of site where we've had we don't have J breaks in the UK, so it's where we're getting good results.
Ticketing for?
They're not yet, but they will be. Yeah, they will be. Yeah. So Jake break is basically it's called so Jake is short for Jacob, which is the name of the guy that invented it, and it's basically an engine brake on trucks. So basically, some of the exhaust gases there's a valve in the exhaust system, and the exhaust gases are recycled into the engine as a means of slowing it down. So basically, if you're driving a big heavy truck, you can flick a switch, your Jake brake goes on, you get extra braking power. So there is it can be kind of a little bit controversial, because arguably if you're driving a 50-ton truck and you're plowing towards a school out of control, kind of you want good braking. So there is that balance. But I mean, I saw it I've just driven up from Providence today, and I saw I've driven kind of like through some fairly small little towns, and I did see quite a few signs saying no engine brakes. And actually on the video I showed you right at the start, there was an orange truck that was in the center of New York City with its J brake on, and it's illegal in most cities for trucks to operate with their J brakes on, because they say.
Like you can muffle.
I'm sorry?
You can muffle. At least that's what Jacob says.
Had they said that? I would have thought I would have thought there would be things they could do.
They say you shouldn't ban them, you should just say they have to.
Right, that's what we're proposing.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. Yeah. So there's an engineering solution to it. Yeah.
So have an exception for emergencies.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So that's a defense. That's defense of law. Yeah. So I think that's it with the videos. Oh, there is another one there, but I won't bother you with that. The only other thing is, so I just kind of I'm just going to rewind. I've kind of jumped about a bit to try and preserve the audio, so I'm not going to play any more video.
Okay, so let's go back to.
What do I need to do? Mute.
People want to be able to hear us.
Okay. Turn off my sound. Okay, my sound's off.
Turn on our sound.
Should I move? Should I make this go up volume wise?
Okay.
Okay. We good?
Mute yourself.
I'll mute my microphone. Where's that?
Okay, we're good.
I believe I'm an acoustic engineer.
We have a problem with sound, of course.
Don't ask me. I don't know what I'm doing. So this I meant to show you earlier, but I kind of skipped it because of the audio stuff. So this is roughly where we are at the moment. So we have multiple systems in London. We have a couple of other cities in the UK as well. We're about to start pilots in Scotland for Transport for Scotland. Thanks to our friends in Europe, we're not doing anything there, so we won't mention that. But we have pilots in Dubai and Qatar. We have a pilot in Sydney, 4 systems in Sydney that have been there since November. We ran a pilot in Miami Beach. We have our units in New York City. So New York at the moment is our big customer. They have 12 units. Very well established program, so they've been there since the first one was in 2021, and they've built since then. And as I said, they have a team of people that manage it, and they fine. We have a pilot
pilot going on in Philadelphia at the moment. We have Iowa that I mentioned, which was a pilot and it's now permanent. I'm not sure where that is next door to Iowa. Sacramento just completed a pilot for California Highway Patrol. I'm not sure where that is either.
Calgary?
No.
Banff?
No, we're not doing anything in Canada yet. We're talking to, that might be a rogue dot. And Hawaii. So we're about to start a fairly big pilot in Hawaii as well. So yeah, we're kind of not quite getting worldwide domination, but it's, our barrier with all of this is legislation. So Philadelphia started their pilot in December, but I was talking to them for 2 years before we got to that point. They had to pass the bill and everything else. So it's kind of a snowball, and the snowball is gradually getting bigger. It's taking time, which is fine because it gives us time to keep on top of improving the technology.
Robert online asked a question, and I'm trying to remember what it said, but I think it said ask something about if your technology is also able to register speed limits and if they're going above the speed limit.
We don't have the specific hardware to do that, but we can do it indicatively. So the new technology we're about to roll out, which is going to determine the distance from the microphone to the vehicle. So you remember the vehicle, the vehicle passes left to right or right to left in front of the microphone. So the distance, the vehicle is moving, so the distance is varying to the microphone. So what we're doing is we're capturing the noisiest part of the vehicle movement and then quantifying the distance. We can use that same data to quantify speed, but it's an estimate, and it's not like a radar system that's used in speed cameras. So it's but it could be done relatively easily. It's just another transducer. So we can certainly give in the future anyway. We'll be able to give an indication of speed. Okay. So I'm nearly done. So just going to tell you a little bit quickly about the New York City legal challenges they've had. So they've had quite a few legal challenges, and the most, as far as I'm concerned, the most exciting and important point is the bit in red, which they've all been unsuccessful. So and I've touched on all of this before, so I won't take too long on this. So the common arguments are my car is unmodified. I haven't done anything to it, and as I said to you right at the start, actually not targeting the car, we're targeting the driver, and the driver has a choice on how to drive. If you chooses to drive it in such a way that it makes a lot of noise, it's a type of antisocial behaviour, which is what's being targeted. The next point is how do you know it's me and not the guy in the car next door? And we have the microphone array with the red dot. That proves beyond reasonable doubt that we've got the right person, the right vehicle, and the system isn't accurate. And we use, as I say, the system is calibrated annually. We use a precision microphone which is certified to an international standard, and I think for those three reasons, that's why all of these legal challenges have been thrown out, have been unsuccessful. And then finally, I don't know if this is in the right order really, but and I don't know how much of an issue this would be in Vermont, but certainly in some parts of the world, privacy is a concern. So we recently implemented face blowing technology. New York City asked for this, so we're not identifying individuals. That's optional because I think sometimes you probably actually want to identify the driver. So sometimes it might be needed, but that can be there if needed. And then the other thing that everyone asks is, obviously we're recording audio. What about privacy? Are we going to capture people having a conversation, if they're stood underneath the microphone? And the answer to that is it only records audio when it detects a high level of noise from the vehicle. And most of the time, that means that if you've got a car passing making a lot of noise, that's going to drown out any speech audio. So we've never, I think, touch wood, we've never captured any speech at all. And that's kind of it.
That was great.
Yeah. Good. I've got to condense that into 12 minutes.
So it seems like all your testing sites are bigger cities.
Avoca is in Iowa, so that's the site with the Jake break. I showed you Jake breaks.
Okay.
That's a city of 4,000 people.
4,000.
Yeah. But otherwise, I think you're probably right.
And they have them only in that city and not.
At the moment in Iowa, we're getting quite a lot of interest from other spaces in Iowa as well on the back of it, but only in Abaco at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's only one system there. So they have, I mean, invariably, you guys will know this, there are certain streets where there is certain issues. So, it's one particular road in Iowa that they have that issue.
Well, actually, it's not. It's like all of our roads.
Okay. I think what's going to happen though is invariably, people will learn that. Well, actually, the cameras are portable. That's the other thing, so they can be moved around. What I was going to say is that people will learn the location of the camera, and then they'll just, go off and have fun somewhere else.
Right, that was.
So yeah, the camera. I mean, they are portable. They're not they're not super portable, but they're on demountable clips, so you can unclip them and take them from one location to another. But it still requires a bucket truck, an electrician to do that. But maybe it's 3 or 4 hours work to take it down and reinstall it elsewhere, but it can be done. And we are working on a trailer mounted system as well, which might be good for sort of car meets and things like that, temporary events.
Russ online was asking about pricing model. And I don't know if there's any other questions we missed online, but just wanted to flag those as well when we're chatting in person.
Do you want to have all of this recorded, or at some point do we want to take any?
And we can also turn off your presentation if you want.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. I can do that. So I can't see any of the comments actually.
Oh, you know what? I got the comments here.
Yeah. Okay.
I moved them over to here.
It's gonna be so hard. They're great when they work, but some days.
Okay, I got a question here. It seems like there would be some situations where it would be difficult to attribute an exceedance to a specific vehicle. For example, the limit is 80 dBA and you have two vehicles passing at the same time that are both at 78. You trigger above 80, so there must be discernment process to determine if it's an actual exceedance.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably a fair point, and there might be times when you have. I mean, but that assumes that you have two. What I'm thinking is maybe two motorbikes that were perhaps racing, so they're kind of competing with each other. They might be producing similar noise levels, but it's a very rare number of cases. It's a very rare number of cases. Most of the time, there is one vehicle that is dominant, and it really stands out.
Okay. Doug, did you want to type a question, or are you going to say it?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so Hanover, New Hampshire has a state highway, Route 10, that goes right through the middle of town. And on either side of the highway, there are 3 or 4 story buildings that have businesses or residential areas. And in the summertime, the parking spaces along the main drag are removed in areas, and seating for restaurants are put in. And so because it's a state highway and there's like a major gravel company, 6 miles away, there's a lot of heavy trucks coming right through the middle of town. But these trucks are about, 10 or 15 feet from where people are sitting outside, where parking spaces have been converted into restaurant tables. So really I don't know if the trucks are too loud or it's just a matter that we're sitting really close to them as going through.
Possibly both. I mean, it doesn't sound like an overly appealing environment to have a meal.
Here.
Yeah.
No, but well, yes, you do. I mean, it's the same in the UK. I mean, what I have seen is where highways go through sort of built-up areas and there's a lot of trucks. They will use engine brakes, so they'll be on the highway and they'll be in a 55 zone, and then they'll get into the part of the highway that goes through the city, and the speed limit will drop to 30 or 35. So they'll switch their engine brakes on to slow down. And then, of course, they're in a built-up area, and there are people living, studying, working, having their lunch very close by.
Yeah, and also remember that there's no fail for truck brakes, and the fact that they're not properly muffled, because commercial trucks are all self-inspecting, and even if they were independently inspected, the current inspection manual only will advise the owner that they need to be properly muffled, that they're not required in order to get a inspection sticker in Vermont.
Do you coordinate this? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Do you coordinate this at all with like air pollution kind of numbers? I mean, considering, the summertime, when there's sort of, heat inversions and stuff. This area downtown is like 10 degrees at least hotter than the rest of the Upper Valley area. And so the noise and the pollution are all concentrated in this very narrow downtown area. Has that been done?
We do have different types of monitors that do measure air quality, so PM 2.5 or PM 10. We haven't combined it. I mean, I guess the noise camera is kind of designed to look at, if you like, an acute issue, which is, excess noise from a particular vehicle passing by, whereas obviously an air quality issue is more of a chronic issue. It builds up over time. So I don't know whether combining air quality with the noise camera within its specific application as it is at the moment would be a thing or not, but it is. Yeah, I mean, we do have air quality monitors, which, I mean, we combine them with vibration monitors and noise monitors, mainly in construction. That's usually the issue, is dust from construction sites. It can be done, but it would need some thought, I think.
There was one question about pricing, and I'm not sure if you exactly talked about that. Did you say something? I missed that.
Yeah, I mean, I think really pricing is something I'd rather talk to
the customer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or at least quietly when they're not being recorded.
Okay. Well, it's not being recorded. Okay.
Yeah.
Would your corporation be willing to do a pilot situation in Vermont?
Yeah.
Okay. There we go.
One thing I was going to say about your presentation on the report, that the report said that it doesn't have an increase impact on law enforcement. But what we've heard from the speed cameras is that even though last year when we passed the bill on speed camera enforcement, a pilot, they were all for it, but now they said they didn't want to have a sworn law officer looking at the speed camera data, because that put somebody at a desk just looking at the photos. They said they didn't have enough officers to do that.
Is that true? Do they have to be at a desk looking at the camera?
Well, I guess, so my question is, in other jurisdictions, do they need, it sounded like you said some jurisdiction just had a company sending out the fines.
Yeah.
So they have to just change the law.
So Iowa, once they start fining, will have a company that's gonna do the fines. We've actually, that's Knoxville I didn't mention. So yeah, we're about to start in Knoxville as well. So, and they will also be doing the same with a back office company, and Hawaii will as well. New York City at the moment employ guys that do that themselves. What I'm told is, I mean, the system can be fully automated, but what I'm told is even red light and speed camera systems, which I always thought if you get a speeding ticket from a camera that there's no human intervention, it literally detects your speed, takes a photo, reads your license plate, automatically goes through, prints the fine, puts it in the post, and there's no human intervention. But what I'm told is actually every single violation does have a human being checking it. I would say, really, to be robust legally, it probably does need that.
Yeah, they said it was needed to counter anybody that challenged the ticket.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is, I mean, the laws obviously across the world, and actually in the US, vary as well. So obviously, most of the US, as you guys, has a fixed ordinance, so a defined noise limit at a defined distance. So it's very binary, it's very black and white. Not all of the US has that actually, but in the UK, we don't have ordinances like that. We just have a subjective appraisal. So it requires an officer to look at every single video and listen to it and say, as if they were a police officer on the street corner watching someone whiz by. Gosh, that's too loud. So they have to make a judgment. Has this guy modified his exhaust? Is he driving aggressively and over revving, or is he just driving a noisy vehicle? So that because it's a subjective assessment. I think I'm trying to remember. I can't remember with Iowa. I think Iowa works on that basis. I can't remember, but I can find out.
So there are states that have the law written in such a way to allow for non-police officers to do the.
So in New York City, the police aren't involved. It's the Department for Environmental Protection.
Good.
So I was told by Agency of Transportation that they were gonna look into that, maybe come back next year and propose that.
Excellent. Okay, that's what the feeling was, that's good, yeah.
And that might help with a pilot for noise cameras if we
Yeah.
got that.
Yeah, I've talked to DMV and it sounds like there's a bill going through the legislature for work zone automated speed cameras.
That's what we passed last year, and they were supposed to start this year, but now they're saying they're not gonna do it because they can't find officers. Public safety refuses to put officers on
Oh,
viewing the duty, which I don't think they can legally do it because the law says they. But basically, Agency of Transportation says they had to do it in cooperation with public safety, but they're both just pointing fingers at the other one. Said like,
yeah.
you do it, it's your responsibility. And the other says, well, the law says that you have to work with us. So neither, because DMV has their own sworn officers,
Yeah,
and they don't want to do it either.
no, they don't. So if we authorize a new law, you know, just write it carefully so it authorizes the way it should go, that's easier for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although when they testified, they thought it was a good thing because they don't have to pull people over, all of the stuff they had at the beginning of this presentation. They don't have to pull anybody over, there's no bias, it's just.
Right.
But it takes somebody to sit and look at each video and say, yep, that license plate is what the computer says it is. I'm writing a ticket, signing it as a sworn officer.
Okay.
Hours? Because like you wouldn't have to have a police officer sitting there monitoring
Right.
like for 12 hours to get that. You can just have them come in.
What actually some of the third party companies do is they will do the pre-approval process.
Mhm.
So they will look at the violation, look at all the evidence, and say this is a flag it, and then it goes through to the police department, and then just to basically tick a box and sign it off. So actually, police involvement can be very minimal.
And that's what we thought, that they would only see the images where the camera was tripped, just like your sound camera.
Yeah.
They only get an image if it was too loud or driving too fast.
Yeah.
So it's not every car.
That's the highlight reel.
Yeah.
Although unfortunately in speed zones is about every car that's speeding, is what they said.
Yeah.
But
Well, if they put the speed camera and the noise camera together, you know, at the same spot, they can just.
Yeah.
Sure.
especially if it was just to pilot to see how it would work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely.
But even like the deterrent of you flag that this is the spot that's happening. I'm thinking about all the little speed warning, speed signs. They're not doing radar here, but it's like, it just tells you it's 35-mile zone. You're like, oh, shoot, 35. So I gotta better slow it down here. So
If you're somebody like you that cares, other people that don't care
Yeah.
and just drive faster, see if they get the number higher on.
I do that on my bike. My bicycle over there, not a motorcycle. I've kind of gotten a ticket coming down County Road.
Any more comments?
Well, the other thing just legislatively is that, and Burlington wants to do red light cameras and speed cameras. I don't know about noise cameras, but since they can only pass laws that the legislature approves, they can't do it. So there's legislation to that would allow municipalities to pass ordinances around speed cameras and red light cameras.
Yeah.
We should add noise cameras to that.
Yes.
So if any town still wanted to do it, they could do it without
Yeah.
having to go to the legislature each time. So that would be a big thing, because I think some municipalities, like this one in Iowa, might want to do it on their own.
Are there any equity concerns with this? I can't think of any, but
The ACLU supported the speed camera pilot, which people were surprised with, because in normal, they don't support license plate readers.
Yeah.
But with the protections like the noise, that
Yeah.
you delete the information, you're blurring the face, you're not capturing the people in the car.
Right.
But one other question I had on the legal arguments that we heard was that they would say, yeah, that's my car, but I'm not driving. Yeah.
So I had a conversation with someone at DMV, and his recommendation on that was to ticket the owner of the car and do not put points on their license, so then you're not really penalizing him in a huge way.
That's the way we wrote the speed camera pilot.
What we have in the UK for to address that is that the owner of the car and actually I just got one for speeding recently, annoyingly. The owner of the car receives a letter basically saying this vehicle was caught, on this road doing this speed, and the speed limit is this. Were you driving at the time? And you say yes or no. So that goes to the registered owner of the vehicle, and if you weren't driving, then the registered owner has to declare who was driving, and then name and address of who was driving. And if you do, if you're a bit creative with the truth in that process, it's a big deal, and you go to prison, and people have done. I mean, I don't know how that works in the US, but you must have exactly the same issue with speeding. Speed cameras or red light cameras. Like, you can identify the vehicle, but how do you know who was driving it?
Yeah, I think we even said in there to get the pilot passed, they just have to say it wasn't them.
Right.
And basically, they can get out of it. But
okay.
For
Yeah,
the pilot,
that's kind of a weakness.
Yeah, well,
Assume
for a
that
pilot.
maybe as like the owner of the car, you are the one who's assuming responsibility for the speed limit that the car is going, and you gave it to an untrusting party.
Yeah, it's like parking tickets. We don't.
Yeah.
The car is a violation.
Well, in fact, a lot of noise ordinances are written that way too. That it's illegal to, create a noise or to permit the noise. And so that's why landlords can actually be responsible, or a facility where certain, like a dirt bike track where certain bikes are allowed, as the facility can be in violation because they're permitting it. And so that's pretty common.
That's harder to change the behavior though. Just interesting. Yeah, sorry. I'm
Yeah.
getting my policy degree right now, so all that, yeah, everything.
So just for those who are on virtual, any last questions, and then we can shut this off? Okay.
Silence.
Good, silence for noise.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna end this, and then thanks to you all for participating.
Another issue, I don't know if you've done this, the US cities, and I don't know if it comes up with noise.